The Graduate came out on December 22nd, 1967. It was directed by Mike Nichols and starred Dustin Hoffman, who went on to have a career of winning 2 Oscars. This film was nominated 7 times for Academy Awards and was the winner for Best Directing. During this time period, there were many important events that were taking place all around the world. The Vietnam War was in full swing. During the year of 1967, there were many battles fought against the Viet Cong and the United States military. An example of the battles was Operation Bolo. This was an air battle in the Democratic Republic of Vietnam on January 2nd. There was also a search and destroy mission in the Khe Sanh Valley. This mission lasted a week, and 701 Vietnamese were killed, along with 23 captured. The United States lost 110 soldiers and had 241 wounded. This mission was known as Operation Union 2. The Vietnam War could have influenced the filmmakers' thinking, with making Dustin Hoffman, known as Ben in the film, a young man who had just graduated college with a scholar education, showed that he was among the men who didn't serve the country in the war. This shows that Ben's family was wealthy and upscale in the fact that he wasn't involved in the military. Along with the Vietnam War taking place, there were many advancements with sexual rights during this time period. Abortion rights and laws were passed. Specifically to this year, California legalized abortion. Casual sexual activity was beginning to become more prominent during this time period after divorce laws were passed. This signified a huge moral change throughout society. The social norms at this time period was for men to have big dating pools of women to choose from, especially if they had their degree and were part of a high social class. There were many stereotypes that are addressed in The Graduate that were very prevalent throughout this time period. This film is addressing the issue of adultery and how scandalous it was then. Even though it is still the case in today's day and age, it was unheard of for people to address this issue in public. This is still the case in today's day and age. The whole movie explains that the culture in the 60s was prominently based on meeting the social goals of marriage and sophistication. The story of this film is being told by Ben, who was a social elite and considered to be an insider in the social life of the 1960s. Ben is a young man trying to deal with pressures and situations of his future after he obtains his degree. We are supposed to sympathize with Ben after he ends his affair with Mrs. Robinson and wants to marry Elaine. This plot also shows how it was scandalous but still occurring that men would have affairs with older women. This is not the case with the roles reversed. There aren't many storylines that have young women sleeping with older men and then still getting to marry the man of their dreams. This film is an example of a single story with one perspective. Throughout this film, it is very evident and acceptable for young men to fool around with girls and date around. During the party Ben's parents throw for him, one of the most asked questions is if he was dating any girls. One person said to him, "Halflings this summer. Stop thinking about your future for a while." People also comment on his new car and talk about how much the girls will love him for his car. The film shows that Ben takes Elaine to a gentleman's club is very morally wrong because she is the only woman there besides the strippers on stage. They get many nasty looks from people while they are there as well. The way some men in the film talk about women show the way women were perceived. One character in the frat house says, "Save a piece for me," when talking about his friend marrying Elaine. Within the film, morality is unambiguous because everyone knows the right and wrong at the time when it comes to affairs. In this case, evil is not punished because even though Ben had an affair with Mrs. Robinson, he still ended up running off with Elaine at the end of the film. From an analytical standpoint of the cinematic techniques, there were many long takes from a single camera throughout the movie. The camera stays in deep focus mainly. The perspective of Ben with his thoughts and actions of the scenes are emphasized. Throughout the entirety, music and sound serve as a big component of the feel of each scene. For example, when Ben and Mrs. Robinson are at the hotel for the first time, there is not music, and the little noises throughout the scene are very evident, like the door clicking and the zipper of Mrs. Robinson's dress as she undresses. When Ben gets into the swing of seeing Mrs. Robinson, there is upbeat music that shows his mood and attitude toward what is happening in the scene. In most cases, the lighting creates shadows and sharp angles to have more contrast in the picture and to make the audience focus on actors. This film shows a great standpoint from the 1960s and interacts a great deal with the sexual revolution that was happening.